Let me tell you about a flower that blooms during the winter because that's pretty unusual. This is called a hellebore, or sometimes called a Lenten rose, because the bloom time of this plant happens to coincide with Lent. So, what do I like about this plant? There's actually quite a lot. So, number one is it's very cold hardy. So, this goes all the way up to zone 5 as a perennial, and the foliage is very, very frost tolerant. So while most perennials are completely dead and dormant in the winter, a lot of times this will still have leaves that are all through the winter. Now, speaking of the leaves, they do have some really cool veining patterns on them, and the feel of them is pretty leathery, which is kind of nice. The other thing I like is while the flowers are big, they're not overbearing in their colors. Most of the colors are very muted, they're very earthy. There are also varieties that have green flowers, which is pretty unique as well. You don't see green flowers very often. Now, one thing that's kind of strange about them is most of the time the flowers are slightly turned downward, and so it's not the type of look that you typically see with flowers that are pointing upward. They like a well-draining soil, and they seem to do best in an area that is partial sun, although they will grow in shadier spots as well. Oh, and lastly, they are deer resistant if you do have those deer that like to come by and nibble on plants in your area. So definitely a plant worth checking out in your garden.